Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're going to continue a series on the MARS FPGA project. More specifically, what is it, what are the details of the hardware, and more importantly, when are we going to see it in action? Because more details have come out, published by the MARS team themselves on Reddit, and republished by a Japanese gaming blog that talks about the launch date and what's going to be happening moving forward with MARS. And unfortunately, it seems like summer 2024 is not in the cards after that was the information that was previously stated. So we're going to get involved in all of that, talk about why the delays have probably happened, and what we really want to see from MARS moving forward before this thing actually goes live. Because the last video we talked about the fact that the MARS team had added cartridge reading as well as a secondary FPGA chip, the TI-120, which is going to assist the TI-180 overall running games as well as the operating system. So I'm sure some of those updates probably take a little bit of extra time in development. And previously we expected to see MARS FPGA demoed at too many games in the end of June, but that kind of slipped as well. It's now going to be two of the developers running a little bit of a panel there talking about developing for FPGA hardware. So originally we expected to see MARS FPGA running again June 28th to 30th, but that is not the case. Last time we saw it was down in Florida. What the previous article that MARS FPGA retweeted said, the final revised version of MARS is scheduled to be completed in June and will be available for purchase around the end of the summer this year. And for me, at least, summer is the end of August. And again, it looks like at the end of June, two of the developers on the MARS side of things are going to be doing a panel, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of questions they get as far as the release date is concerned. But now MARS FPGA reposted another article, and that article takes details directly from a MARS FPGA post on Reddit that talks about the details moving forward as far as the development is concerned and the timelines therein. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. What the new timeline is, what's going on, and when you can expect to see MARS FPGA running something again. So let's jump right into that article and just talk about what they're stating. And one of the headline details is the operating system they're using, or in fact not using. They're not having Linux on board. It's actually going to be a real-time operating system. Now there are no details on what this operating system is or whether or not they're writing it custom for MARS, but let me just explain what a real-time operating system is, because you might be thinking Windows is real-time because everything happens in real time. That is not the case. A real-time operating system basically has scheduling built in, so any of the processes that need to happen within a certain set period of time, those can be scheduled and basically managed so that all of the data and everything else you need to happen within a certain set period of time can be managed. So this gives you a way more granular ability to control what's going on underneath the hood. You can do event-driven issues, you can manage the task as they come in, you can schedule basically anything you want, but the three states would be running, ready, and blocked. Now something like Windows does have task priority, but this is different than a real-time operating system. But again, they're not saying what it is, whether or not they're writing it themselves, or that it's not Linux. But honestly, on the Linux side of things, that doesn't really prove to be much of an issue. Obviously, MiSTer FPGA has been running a flavor of Linux since its inception, and we don't really have any issues over there. So I'm not sure why they're not just using Linux, some sort of pre-built distro, or something that they can modify if they are making an entirely new operating system just to run on MARS. That could be one of the reasons for the delay. I would assume that they're probably using something that's already pre-baked, or at least something they can modify, but again, details are sparse, so I just have to presume what's going on here. But like I said, MiSTer FPGA uses Linux. It's been perfectly fine the entire time, so I'm not sure what the MARS team was having an issue with on the Linux side of things, or why they would think a real-time operating system would provide them with some tangible benefit over a Linux implementation. But just so you know, all of these details were published by MARS FPGA account on Reddit, so that is exactly what we are using right now. This is not anything that the site published that they were presuming on. This is from the MARS team, so we know we can accept the veracity of that. And they just basically put out some key details that we'll be talking about right here. And you can go over to Reddit and see that exact same post, just so you know it was posted by MARS FPGA themselves. The first thing is, obviously, Pramod and Attract 17 are going to be doing that panel at Too Many Games on Sunday, June 30th, so they'll be talking about MARS and some new details, so we'll definitely update after that. But that is one of those things everyone was really looking forward to actually seeing MARS FPGA run at this expo like was originally promised, but that just isn't going to be the case. And then they talk about that operating system one more time. We've kind of gone over that, so we'll have to wait and see what actually happens there. But it is a little bit of a bummer. We're not going to be able to see MARS running in real time. Everyone wants to see the hardware running cores. Now, previously we talked about the fact that this was going to be available for purchase at the end of summer. Apparently that was not true. The MARS FPGA team did retweet the article previous that I referenced, but now it means that it is not shipping late summer. That is not in fact true. So I'm not really sure when you're expecting to see MARS FPGA, because if we go back to the last article, it talks about changing the specifications. Now, anytime you're in development on hardware and you move the goalposts as far as the hardware inside of it, you are going to have to redesign things. This is not Legos. You can't just plug in a secondary FPGA chip or have some sort of cart slot implementation without redesigning the PCB as well as the underlying software that would be able to utilize that. So I'm sure adding that second FPGA chip, the ePhoenix TI-120, is probably delaying this at least a little bit. Obviously on the case side of things, Todd has everything buttoned up. He's got the renders. This could be sent to injection molding, which is assumingly the process they're going to be using. I highly doubt he's going to be 3D printing this stuff, although his 3D prints are quite good. I'm sure he could get away with it at least for some demos. But obviously adding in hardware is always going to delay something. That TI-120 will probably be a benefit in the long run, but in the short run it is going to probably push the timeline back, because the physical designed object is there, the concept is there, everything that MARS could be, at least as an object you can hold in your hand, is done. It seems like the internals are still maybe a little bit behind because of those changes. Whatever goes into Todd's case, that seems to be what might be taking the amount of time that it is right now, and they've talked about all of the different video signals, so the plan is there. The hardware just might be a little bit running late. Or maybe something like the cores are not ready yet. They've talked about Dreamcast, they've talked about 3DO, they've talked about Jaguar, they've talked about so many things that are going to be ready for MARS FPGA, including all the major MiSTer cores day one, but that does take time. Maybe the board's pretty much close to complete, but none of the cores are currently running on it. You just have to read between the lines and presume things. I do not have the definitive answer, but my guess would be that the hardware is delayed and some of these cores here just are not done, or maybe they're half done. Who knows? But those are kind of the questions you have to ask yourself when we talk about the delays. You'll see here they also state that they've never received any funding from customers and will not receive any funding from customers until they have a functional device. I'm not really sure why they're mentioning that. No one said they have been, and honestly I've commended them for not trying to take any money until they have a product ready to ship that has been highly demoed and showcased, put into previewers' hands so they can run videos on it so people know exactly what they are purchasing. MARS is a new company like any other company, needs to show the hardware first before they can really talk about taking any cash for it. But it's not going to be ready by the end of summer. It doesn't seem like they're taking money by the end of summer, so MARS seems to be falling off into maybe a fall to winter 2024 release, maybe something that you could buy around Christmas. And again, it's not going to be demoed in any way, shape, or form at the end of June at Too Many Games. So that's kind of what's going on with MARS FPGA right now. The release date has slipped a little bit again, so we'll have to wait and see what the next round of updates bring. But you guys always ask me what's going on with MARS, so I try to update these videos as more pertinent information comes out, and you get a couple more Arnolds on your screen. But if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll try to answer each and every one of you. But as far as what's going on with MARS and when it's going to come out, your guess is as good as mine. We'll just have to wait and see, read the tea leaves, and get some more information. So that we're done, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.